What's up guys, my name's Dychronic here on this Destiny 2 video, and today we're going to be talking about the top 5 PvE specials in Destiny 2 right now. Now this top 5 countdown is based on a whole bunch of different factors, on my own opinion, on the opinion of a lot of friends who play the game a lot and are pretty good, the opinions of different websites and databases, and is also based on a bunch of different factors. And as always, I end up doing a DPS test for special and heavy weapons in PvE, so at the end of the video I'll be showing you my full spreadsheet of all the weapons and how they all broke down, of all the different things if you were to be using them against a boss, and showing how good they are. However, this video is not just going to be a list of the best DPS weapons, because different weapons are useful for different things, and they're also more difficult to use oftentimes when they have more DPS. So I'm going to be showing you the different weapons, telling you why I think that these are the best. And on top of that, I wanted to weigh special weapons in two ways that kind of ride opposite to each other. Firstly, as a standalone special ammo unit, does not matter if they're exotic or legendary, how good is this weapon? But then also the opposite of that, also consider that right now exotics are dominating the heavy slot with things like Sleeper Simulant, Whistles of the Worm, work with Coil, Thunderlord, things like this. So you have to keep that in mind, so that, you know, special weapon exotics are not usually very favorable because of that reason. But honestly, you have to keep both in mind because there's different things for different uses and different experiences for each person. Anyways, today's video has been brought to you by cute and fluffy alligators. Yeah. Let's just say alligator. Yeah, you know what? Screw it. Alligators. Cute and fluffy. Not fluffy, but cute and adorable baby alligators on screen right now. Just the first animal to pop in my mind. I may have been watching some Smash Bros. And King Kenneth Rule earlier, but, you know, the alligators could be cute, I guess. We'll have to find out. I said alligator. Oh my god. And the last thing I wanted to mention before I get started is that recently there was a patch drop that changed a lot of weapons and changed around. For example, sniper rifles and auto rifles got a bunch of buffs. There's a couple of other things that happened. If you want to see that January 29th patch note, check in the description down below. You can see exactly what was changed and how it was changed. In this video, I'll be highlighting those specifically to target those ones that have changed and have been buffed that you really need to keep an eye out for. Anyways, let's go ahead and get started with number 5 in this top 5 countdown, which is going to be the Twilight Oath Legendary Energy Sniper Rifle. Again, this is one of those rapid-fire sniper rifles that got buffed with the recent patch. It's not a huge buff. It got an 8% damage bonus to all rapid-fire sniper rifles, but it does make this weapon a little bit better than it was, and honestly, this weapon had a pretty good DPS number in the last time that I tested it. So this sniper rifle can be found in the Dreaming City as a random drop pretty much anywhere, and you have a lot of different opportunities to get this weapon in many different forms. In my opinion, the best way you can get this weapon for PvE is going to be its curated role, which is going to be Snapshot plus Box Breathing. Box Breathing being the perk that increases the damage while you aim down sights for a couple seconds, and then that shot, once you fire, will then remove box breathing. You gotta wait for a couple more seconds, basically just increasing your total damage output that you can possibly do. However, I would say that with a caveat, because of the fact that you can do a lot more DPS if you're not using box breathing. However, again, your total damage will be a lot less. Outside of that, the possible random rolls also includes box breathing. Sometimes a curated roll doesn't have what the total random rolls can have. For example, Snapshot, it's not even in the random rolls, so keeping that in mind. However, box breathing is available if you wanted to pair it with any one of the different possibilities. In my opinion, still, Snapshot plus Box Breathing is still a lot more fun to use and a lot more usable in a lot of different scenarios. Now, honestly, sniper rifles with rapid fire frames are really not that strong in PvE. I would honestly say they're really not something you should look for. In my opinion, more of the 72 RPMs. If you can find some Box Breathing with 72 RPMs, it might be better, but right now there's not really much opportunity for that if you're looking for it. And honestly, you guys are definitely sleeping on this because this can do a pretty good amount of damage very, very quickly. Anyways, moving on to number 4 in this top 5 countdown is going to be the Coldheart Exotic Energy Trace Rifle. Now, I mentioned before, auto rifles and trace rifles in general are getting a bunch of different buffs. I don't think the auto rifle buffs apply to any of the trace rifles, but the trace rifles now get more ammo from special when you pick them up off the ground. On top of that, the Wave Splitter did obviously get nerfed in PvP, but this video is about PvE, so we're not going to talk about that. But the Coldheart basically used to be one of the DPS hounds before, like, basically the Whisper era. This weapon used to be very useful for doing damage against Ikelos. You know, you use your cluster bomb rocket launchers, and then you pull out your Coldheart, not only for skulls, but also for damage against bosses, because this weapon, once you start firing it for a while, increases the damage as you go along. On screen now, you can see the different numbers that I found from my Excel document, where I can find the minimum and the maximum number and the total damage over time. This weapon still does a pretty decent DPS, and on top of that, a full ammo of Coldheart does pretty high amounts of total ammo damage. Outside of it, this weapon isn't really used much as far as killing ads go. It is all about those boss kills. So keeping your aim on a boss for a really long period of time, getting that extra damage boost, and you can actually get a pretty decent amount of DPS and total damage on an enemy, like I was saying, but outside of that, you're not going to be using it too much. So keep that in mind while you're using things. That Whisper is probably going to be a better alternative. Up next at number 3 in this top 5 countdown is going to be the Borealis Exotic Energy Sniper Rifle, which used to be a PS4 exclusive weapon. It was very useful in Nightfalls when you needed match game matching. However, nowadays we have different opportunities to use against matchmaking, and it's less impactful. This weapon is definitely extremely powerful, and a lot of people are definitely sleeping on this weapon. However, obviously it is an exotic weapon and a sniper rifle, so Whisper can obviously do what it does, but a little bit better if you have power ammo. Now, how does this weapon work? Firstly, you can pick any element for this weapon. Holding down the reload button allows you to change between the different damage elements, which again is very useful for match game, for matching different energy shield types throughout any mission, even without match game. And on top of that, you also have Ionic Return, where breaking the enemy shield transfers 1 bullet from reserves, and breaking a shield with the same type as the Borealis at that current moment starts you doing double damage until you reload, which is actually pretty insane. How would you like to just do double damage with this sniper rifle that's already a high impact, a 72 RPM sniper rifle? Why not? Just do more damage. When we used to use this thing on Argos before the Whisper was out, I used to absolutely dump on him. You know, I'd pop a Minotaur shield with the void damage, and then I'd have pretty much infinite Ionic Return using things like Hunter Dodge and Rally Barricade to reload the weapon for me. Now, I know they have changed it a little bit. I believe the Hunter Dodge removes Ionic Return from it because it counts as a reload. I don't think that Rally has been messed up, so I think if you hit a Rally shield or you hit a Lunafaction Rift, you can continue to keep Ionic Return until you literally run out of ammo. But don't quote me on that, I haven't tested that out. But honestly, this weapon is really, really good to use if you don't have Whisper and you had this drop during, for example, that one mission for Refer a Friend. You get this weapon, it's actually really good. You should really use it more. Coming up next on this top 5 list at number 2 is going to be the Ikelos shotgun, which is actually going to be a bit of a surprise for most people. I honestly did not expect this one to ever get number 2 anywhere, but I have a pretty good reason for number 1. You'll just have to wait and see exactly how that pans out. So if you don't know, this is a 100 RPM rapid fire shotgun, which rapid fire means that it actually shoots at 180 RPM, but we'll ignore that. If you did not know that, if it has full auto on a weapon like this, it's gonna just basically double the amount of RPM it does for some reason, but it basically can do a lot of shots very quickly. But on top of that, it also has a perk called Trench Barrel, which allows you to do 50% more damage once you melee a target for the next like 4 seconds or so, or the next 3 shots. So the basic idea is you punch an enemy, you fire 3 shots, you punch an enemy, you fire 3 shots, and you keep doing that over and over again to get the most possible damage you can. Now, the way it worked before was you punched once, and then you had Trench Barrel for like 5 seconds, and then you just absolutely unloaded, and this weapon was unrivaled by everything. And right now, honestly, it's still unrivaled. This weapon is still the dominant energy shotgun, and for any amount of DPS, it is still dominant. It is extremely useful. Outside of that, there's really not much more to say about this weapon. You can get it from Escalation Protocol. Next week is when the shotgun is going to be dropping, so if you want to get the shotgun, next week is your opportunity to get it. And lastly, it has possible Masterworks, which you can randomly roll as many times as you want for 10 enhancement cores every single time. Honestly, amazing weapon, is extremely useful in PvE. Honestly, if you play this game enough, you gotta get yourself an Escalation Protocol shotgun, because this thing is amazing. And lastly, coming up at number 1 in this top 5 countdown of PvE specials in Destiny 2 right now is going to be the threat level legendary kinetic shotgun. This gun is absolutely amazing. It's basically the kinetic version of the Ikelos shotgun because, again, it is a rapid fire 100 RPM shotgun. It also has the opportunity to have Trench Barrel for 50% more damage shots, on top of the fact that it is the kinetic version, which allows you to use it with different energy weapons. For example, if you're doing Nightfalls with match game and whatnot, or you just want an energy weapon of any kind like Nations of Beasts or whatever you want, you can actually use a Trench Barrel kinetic while you're using an energy weapon for a primary, which is really nice to have that opportunity so you're not forced into different weapons. Now, what sets this weapon apart from the Ikelos, and the reason why it didn't just clump it up with the Ikelos, is because of the fact that it can drop without Trench Barrel. It has the opportunity to drop with Surrounded. Now, I understand that Surrounded is a bit finicky because you have to have 3 or more enemies around you for it to proc to give you around a 40% damage bonus, or if you have Surrounded spec, I think that's an extra 10 to 20% damage bonus. But if you can end up doing that, you can absolutely destroy the Ikelos as far as DPS goes. And actually, with Surrounded and a Surrounded spec, this gun literally has the best DPS in the entire game. Better than the Whisper, better than the Sleeper, better than the Darcy, literally better than every heavy weapon that I've ever tested. A Surrounded bonus on a rapid fire shotgun like this gives you better DPS. I believe it was like 169,000 DPS and Darcy was second place with 130,000. Whispers around 100,000 or something like that. Again, I'll show you the DPS test at the very end. I'll link to the docs at the very end so you can see the heavy ones as well. This weapon, if you have surrounded procced, can actually give you a better DPS than Ikelos, and that is what separates it from the Ikelos. On top of the fact, you can also have it spawn with a range masterwork with smooth bore or full choke or any one of these things. It can literally be the ideal shotgun for you. Anyways, that's pretty much the video for you guys today. Again, on screen now you can see the list of all the weapons that I have tested for this video. They are going to be ranked by the DPS, but you should keep in mind that ranking them by their total damage output is also important, as well as their feasibility and usability in different scenarios. That's why it's not just like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 right across the top, as well as the fact that there's also one heavy to give you a little comparison. It also, you must take in consideration how you're using each of the different weapons. But it's there if you wanted to see how much damage each weapon does. And again, all of these weapons were tested on Kali, the first encounter of the Last Wish raid. It's just a very good damage test, and there's raid banners there so I can get tons of ammo. But you should take it with a grain of salt because different enemies have different vulnerability. But that's it. That's the video for you guys today. Surprise alligator right here at the end, King K. Rope himself, and I'll see you guys on the next one.